Okay, so now that we've got everything installed, we want to start with the coding. We want to set up a project config file just to store all the parameters related to the project, like the project name and the APIs that are needed. This is going to be used by both Python and by Tofu. The reason why is because Python needs to be able to set up the project and the environment so that Tofu can start taking over from then on. So that's what we're just going to start doing now. We're just going to create a new file called config.yaml. YAML is just a simpler form for JSON. It reads the same as JSON, but for me it's just easier to read. So yeah, we'll just add a new set of parameters. We're going to start with project ID. This can be anything, but I'm just going to make it Chris gcloud, maybe 9204. The project name is going to be maybe Chris gcloud tofu. Doesn't really matter too much. This has to be globally unique across the whole of Google Cloud, but this can be anything. In terms of the region, we're just going to have Europe West 1. Just to show that we can have other regions apart from the default US Central one. The billing account we need to have as well, but we'll just leave that for later. And OpenTofu is going to use a service account as well. So we need to give it a name and a file name. So the service account name, we're just going to say Chris Tofu SA 9204, just in line with the project there. And we just want to repeat this, but just have a .json at the end. Now we need to be able to specify the APIs that need to be run as well. So I'm just going to declare a list quickly. The first one is going to be iamgoogleapis.com. And I'm just going to copy that a few times. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the various APIs that we need. So we're going to need compute, we need cloud build, run, rt, back to registry, cloud functions, and one more, we need storage as well. And you can just add these ad hoc as you require them. The Tofu project will probably error and say that this API isn't enabled, please enable it, and you can just add it to the list here. But what this is going to do, the Python code is going to read from these parameters up here, and then Tofu is going to read everything as well. So now that we've set up our config file, we want to now create a Python file to be able to create these projects. And the reason why I choose Python over Shell or Bash or PowerShell is because it's slightly more cross-platform and it's a little bit easier to read YAML files in a sense as well. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to say create project.py. We're just going to import the various libraries that we need. The only thing is that YAML is not a default package. You'll just need to install that. And this is with Python m pip install YAML. That's the command for that. And now what we want to do is we want to be able to read this config file. So we're going to create a config object, say yaml.safeload. then we're going to just set the parameters that we need from here. And then what we want to do is, for the various commands, there is a full string for the service account name. It's not just this small account name, it's got a full name as well. So what we're going to do is say full service account name is the service account name at the project ID .im.gservice.account.com. And these are all the parameters that we need so far. We don't yet have the billing account, so in order to get the billing account, we can get it just via the command line. We don't have to go through the cloud console. So what we can do is just open up a new terminal, and we just type gcloud billing accounts list, and this account ID is the billing account that we have. That one we can just stick into the billing account there, into the parameters. So now we want to be able to run a set of Google Cloud commands. Again, I could write this in a PowerShell script, but it doesn't really matter too much. What we want to be able to do is say, first off, we want to be able to create the project. We want to set that as a default config, enable the Cloud Resource Manager API, create a service account, download a service account key for Tofu to be able to use. Once we've done that, Tofu is ready to take over. And it's probably best if they have an owner role, but I usually just give it an editor role and just add any other roles that are required. So you'll see that now going forward. So the commands to do this, so first off, we're going to create a new project. So we want to say gcloud projects create the project ID. The name should be the project name. Then we want to set that as the project that we're dealing with. And then we want to attach the billing account. We're going to create a service account here for Tofu to be able to use. And we're going to add the editor role and the run administrator role. Add IAM policy binding for the project ID. The member equals service account. And then we're going to repeat the same thing, but for roles run.admin. We then want to generate a key for that service account and download it. I'm just going to move these quotations around a little bit so we don't end up with new lines. And we're ready to execute these. So for each of these commands, we want to run the command shell is true, and we want to fail when it errors on our side as well. This looks like it's ready to go, and hopefully everything is all right. Fingers crossed. We're just going to execute that. Projects add. Okay, so if it does error like this, it'll stop along the way. I'm just going to cut these as is, and I'm just going to run it again. Okay. It looks like it's completed on our side, and you'll see that it's created a new service account there. We also want to be able to add that to the git ignore as well. So anything related to that should be ignored, as that's essentially a private key. So what's happened now is we've just created this project with the project name defined according to the config file. In this, we haven't really declared the region yet, but we've linked the billing account and we've downloaded a service account for Tofu. Next up, we're actually able to take over and start what this tutorial is actually about.